Hi, and welcome to Caffeinated Cinema. This is a series I've been wanting to do for years. The kind of rambling at a camera that Red Letter Media does with like the more pointed kind of breakdown filmmaking that Every Frame a Painting does. So we're going to get started with the only way I know how, which is to ramble about X-Files. So when we do these episodes, I kind of want to like point out certain things that I think that thing does really well. For this episode, which is going to be the Fields Where I Died, great episode, we're going to be looking at thematics and theming. We're going to be looking at how it, changes the theme of that episode, but overall the series, and how well it does it. But, when it comes to other things, like if let's say we do Baby Driver, we can talk about like choreography or stuff like that. I kind of want to just have it loosey-goosey, you know what I mean? It's me. I kind of just want to ramble about bullshit. And I think it's the most accurate portrayal of how I talk about film. But we'll talk about this episode. So let's do an overview of the episode. If you don't know about X-Files, just go watch it. It's the greatest TV show I've ever made. I know I'm really biased with saying that because it's my favorite TV show, but I'm just going to say, greatest TV show ever made. Go watch it if you haven't watched it. But this episode, I think, does this kind of amazing thematic, difference the series doesn't really do often, and we'll talk about it right now, but let's do an overview of the episode. So it starts out with Mulder and Scully getting called in with an FBI sting to go after a Jim Jones-style cult. Mulder's brought in because it's, a cult, so there's a lot of, religious attributes to it, so he can be of use when trying to, break down their religious text. They're given a whistleblower has given them information that there is weapons on the facility, so they go and do a kind of raid on the compound. While Mulder's on this raid, he has this overwhelming sense of deja vu, like he's been there before, to the point where it stops him during the raid. Like it's really, really hard. And they go and they can't find any weapons, so they start interviewing every one of the people on the compound to try to get this information, because if they don't, they have to let them walk. They get to one of the Jim Jones style character's wives, and it turns out that she has multiple personality disorder. And with that, one of the personalities, I think his name is Shelby, gives away the information that, they were the whistleblower, and just to leave Melissa alone, the character of the name of the Jim Jones style wife. As they keep going through this, other personalities start popping up, and one of them sees Mulder and starts like, "Oh, it's you! Oh, I never thought I'd see you again." And it turns out that the multiple personalities that this character has aren't multiple personalities, but different souls that this character has lived in her life, and is now positing that Mulder is her husband from a different era who lived on the land that the Jim Jones style cult is now taking place in. This is where the episode starts to really change in a different way. When you look at how X-Files is written, Mulder is this kind of godlike, absurdly right character who, oh, someone died this way. It's a black-sucking vampire. Oh, this happened. It's this. And he's always right. He's almost 100% always right. It's hard as a audience member to, idealistically, have that kind of compassion for that character and try to, meet eye to eye with him, because it's really hard. He's always right, and he always ends up oh, it's this, and then he's 100% correct. We're not supposed to view the series through his eyes. We're supposed to be Scully, this kind of person who is largely skeptical of everything going on, which is why us seeing the series through Scully's eyes then has us, over the time of the series, start to appreciate and respect Mulder because of her starting to appreciate and respect Mulder. And I've watched this series a million times, so I already love Mulder. It's just a deal. But this is the episode I feel that really starts to make you feel for him. There's humanity thrown into him because of this dilemma. having that kind of soulmate kind of deal. And I'll explain when we get there. But just to give an overview of how the writing is, usually. So, when Mulder hears this, he then goes and gets this deep regression hypnotherapy on both the chick and him. And the thematic difference now, and what we learn in here, is that Mulder has lived these different lives as he's being regressed. One of those is that, but in this, he like, it's not just reincarnation. There's a the kind of like a belief that there's reincarnation, but the people in your life will all still be in your life in the next life, whether they be the same person or not is different. But like, let's just say my dad will always be in my life regardless of reincarnation at a different time. Maybe he'll be a friend, or maybe he'll be, like a brother or something like that. But the people that are in your life right now will always be, even in the next reincarnation. That's a belief that is thought of in real world and has now been put into the writing of this episode. When Mulder talks about that kind of reincarnation, when he goes into deep hypnotherapy, he talks about how Samantha's always there, his dad's there, Scully's there, this woman's there, and the cigarette smoking man.
I want you to go into your past, beyond your life as Fox Mulder. What do you see?
Ghetto streets. Shattered glass. Bodies of the dead. I'm a woman. Jewish woman. Poland. My son is with me. He is Samantha.
Samantha? I thought Samantha was your sister.
In this life, she is my son. I see my father. He's dead in the street. Here's Scully. But now, he's gone on now. He's waiting for us. Souls come back together. Different. But always together. Again and again. To learn. I can't go to my father. Gestapo was standing next to him. An officer. He is Cancer Man. Evil returns as evil. But love, souls mate, eternal. My husband is taken away from me to the camps. It is Melissa. We're all taken away.
So, Vince Gillian, who has written this episode, and y'all might know him. If you've heard that name and sounds familiar, it's because he wrote Breaking Bad. He's the lead creator of Breaking Bad, one of the lead writers. Fantastic writer. I think his work on X-Files is, probably better than Breaking Bad. And I know that people are going to be fucking, oh my god, fucking stab Dylan in the gut. But my opinion, go fuck yourself. But also, just that I feel that he understands, the character of Mulder and Scully, I think, almost as well as Chris Carter. Even if he fucks a couple things up, and we're getting into it right now, how he fucks a couple things up. and I'll explain when I get there. But like he understands that character so fucking well. So to humanize a character that is just constantly right and is always like, yeah, it's the three-eyed alien from fucking Neptune, and it ends up being that, in a way that he gives this character meaning. The character of Mulder has, in through the series, has constantly looked for meaning and for a higher meaning for what's going on. He's looking for Samantha, his sister, because she's been abducted by aliens and all this shit that has really fucked up his life. It's given him a goal in life, but it's also alienated him because of the fact that he has this kind of non-achievable goal, and looking for that meaning is super hard for him because it's like, trying to find some sort of higher meaning to, like, all this stuff has really brought him down. So we have a episode where he's given this sort of grand fucking plot from the universe of, hey, this was always going to happen. You're always going to meet Scully, Samantha, your dad is always going to be there, but you're always going to be fighting the evil of the cigarette smoking man. They even bring up World War II, where the cigarette smoking man is like a Gestapo agent. This is the plot, or at least the theme that Vince Gillian has put in here, and it's not like in most things in X-Files when it comes to certain things like that. It's not overtly confirmed as, like, deep lore. Oh, that was the entire point of the series. But even in this episode, Scully opens up the town registry and looks back at the same era that she had heard Mulder and Melissa say, oh yeah, this is when you were here, and finds the person that Mulder's supposed to be and looks at a picture of him and it looks exactly like Mulder, which is even supposed to be like a nod of, oh, maybe it could be, maybe it couldn't. The point what I'm trying to make of, like, oh, he gives Mulder meaning is he just wants to belong. Mulder just wants to belong. He wants to have some sort of idea that everything he's doing is correct and he has some sort of purpose and the way that he's doing things is correct. And that he's not just fruitlessly going about doing the same things over and over again, And finding out that, there's this reproduction. He's like, this is reincarnation where this ongoing battle against evil will always be the case. In a way is comforting to him because it verifies his goals. It verifies his mission. He has to fight the cigarette smoking man. Samantha had to be in his life. His dad had to do all this, Scully's always going to be there. She's always going to be that friend to him, and Melissa was always going to be there and be his soulmate. That's also where the fuck up is, because it really fucks up the Mulder Scully love paradigm that Chris Carter really wants to push. And it's the right one because they be the couple, like those two together is the deal, and I'm very much about that because Mulder's my guy and Scully's great. But even with that, like, it's whatever. You can even extrapolate to, oh, they're friends and that's why they make a better couple, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. I believe in that too, so I very much would push that. But I feel that, like, having that kind of piece where Mulder finds a sort of, higher understanding because he just wants to belong. Like, everyone wants to belong. I hear the reincarnation thing and I hear the, people in your life are always going to be there. That gives me some sort of peace. If I even thought about that, you know what I mean? Like, the people that are in my life, either I've friends with or, had relationships with, that in the next life they'll be there in some sort of capacity, and there's always going to be someone there for me. It's a really calming feeling. And that's, I think, why that works so well to humanize and let you, really have some sort of connection to Mulder outside of him being a very fun character to see. It humanizes him in a way that most other episodes don't. Like, sure, he loves his sister, and you can see that sort of passion of, the love of family, and that's something you can like comparably, like, empathize with. But it's hard. It's hard to empathize with a character who's just constantly right and has these wild, obscene feelings of, like, oh, aliens and this, right? But this episode really helps you empathize with a Mulder because of the fact of, he just wants to belong. He wants to have some sort of greater meaning to the things he does. He wants to feel like there is someone out there for him. He wants to feel like, the things that are happening for a reason. And seeing him in this chair go over this in his mind and start breaking down, you can understand that. Like if I found out right now that, oh, everything that happened to me happened for a reason, blah blah blah. Oh, people who are in my life and maybe aren't in my life anymore. Slash, I've pushed away. They're there. They're supposed to be there. That's a very calming feeling to know that regardless of that, they're supposed to be in my life, and that even in the next life they'll be there. It's a calming feeling, and it's a feeling that you can empathize with that character. That a very like character you can't empathize with. Whereas Scully's really easy to like empathize with. Like, oh, you know, she's dealing with this guy who's kind of weird, who's a controlling human being. I don't know how everyone else is in the workplace, but you always end up, at least for in my experience, getting into a workplace and then having that kind of person who's been there longer, but then instantly knows everything, and then you feel like an idiot. Like, that's the kind of deal, and that's the kind of like writing trope that they use for that. And I feel it really works, which is really fun when the paradigm switches for the Doggett seasons, and then Scully's the kind of like, oh, it's this thing, and then Doggett's like, you're fucking dumb. It's the evolution of that character. But getting back to the episode. But yeah, like, I feel that in that episode, we get a more human side of Mulder, and we get a more empathizable side of Mulder that really helps with the writing of that episode. And thematically, the idea of belonging, the reincarnation shtick, like, all that ends up creating this more, like, cohesive way that you can empathize with Mulder as a character. It, makes this relatively kind of meh plot of like a Jim Jones style cult and reincarnation. It really brings that to another level, because it then goes into a character piece of Fox Mulder, and how even though he seems to know everything, he still in his core just wants, like all of us, to belong. He wants to have meaning. He wants to know that his battle against these government organizations and these other people, it means something, and it matters. This is the kind of plot, this is the kind of like writing that I love in the show, because it really puts the like kind of conspiracy theory, higher plane bullshit, and makes it into like realistically good writing, where we get these kind of like neat character moments where you see a lot of emotion come out of David Duchovny, and he's great in this episode. He really kills the kind of like the kind of feeling you're supposed to have when you're like lost. I think all of us have been in that point in our time in our lives where like we really felt like we don't know what the fuck we're doing. I constantly feel like that, but I think that's why I really like this episode, because I've seen that kind of like meandering feeling you have in your brain sometimes, when you're just like, oh fuck, man, what am I supposed to do? And Mulder has it the entire episode, and it's a really good performance, a really understated performance by Duchovny, where he really like layers the kind of feelings in. Like, he tries to be the normal Mulder, but like he still has this like overwhelming like lostness to him. It's interesting. It's a really interesting performance, which lends itself to the themes of this episode, which is belonging, feeling lost, higher purpose. These are things that are layered into the writing of this episode. And when we get to the end of the episode, we see Mulder trying to accomplish and trying to get Melissa to see that, she has to tell him where the guns are. And I think there's even a line that she says right at the end. It's like, if we were meant to meet each other and we were soulmates and this is how we met, maybe it's better if we try again next time. Which then leads to them drinking the Kool-Aid and the shootout on the compound, her dying, Mulder feeling that lostness but gaining something else. So there's a quote at the end of the episode, and we'll roll it.
At times I almost dream. I too have spent a life the sage's way, and tread once more familiar paths. Perchance I perished in an arrogant self-reliance an age ago, and in that act of prayer for one more chance went up so earnest, so instinct with better light let in by death, that life was blotted out not so completely, but scattered wrecks enough of it to remain dim memories, as now. One seems once more the goal in sight again.
Like that last scene where it's just him in the field looking down at the paper. Beautiful. It's a beautiful scene. I love it. It's so well directed and so well shot. You have that kind of longing and that lostness that I keep talking about. And then Mulder says the quote, at times I almost dream. I too spent life the sage's way. I tread once more familiar paths. Like, we're talking about this kind of, it's a really decent quote. But when we look at the way he says here and what he says here, we're talking about this character who had this kind of like lost feeling. He really felt like he didn't know what was going on. He has this kind of like, not like a lapse of judgment, but more like he starts to question his like overwhelming goal, his crusade to find his sister and his crusade to take down the government. And in this failure of a mission, he loses his soulmate. Everyone dies. In that failure, he still finds the purpose to move on. He still finds that purpose in that he's supposed to be here. And this reincarnation, regardless of its to you or even to Scully, how it's not stupid, he has found that kind of purpose to continue trying. He has to fight the cigarette smoking man. He has to battle the kind of evil that's in this world. That, I feel, is the character focus of this episode, and what makes it so great is that Mulder gains something from this loss. Even though this is the field where he died. This is the field where Melissa's now died. This is this kind of, it's a battlefield in quote unquote, but it's a place where Mulder has gained a new kind of wind, like a second wind to his ongoing crusade to find Samantha. It really humanizes him in a way I don't think the rest of the series does. And even if it kind of fucks up the Mulder-Scully kind of relationship, in a way, I feel that it tremendously does great work for Mulder's character. It is unquestionably probably one of the best episodes X-Files ever does. I feel that maybe there's a couple more I love more. There's Paper Hearts is fantastic. That's another Vince Gillian written one. It's fucking brilliant. My favorite episode is the Postmortem Prometheus. Fucking episode slaps. That episode kills, and it's so dumb. If this is my favorite episode because it's super serious and takes this show really fucking serious, the Postmortem Prometheus is the episode that is just so fucking goofy that I love it. It's an episode in where Mulder has to investigate this kind of town that's obsessed with Jerry Springer and daytime TV, and they have a creature that goes around impregnating people that listens to Cher and eats peanut butter sandwiches. Episode's dumb. Again, I wouldn't do an episode, well maybe I will, I don't know. It's a love letter to Universal monster flicks, it's sick. But when we're talking about serious writing, this I think is the best the series ever gets. It is fucking amazing. Outside of the Chris Carter alien-centered episodes, the government conspiracy ones, where he really sits down and writes, there's two fathers and one son, that two-parter, brilliant. And I think it's better writing than this. But when we're looking at the character study of Mulder, this episode, I think, does the impossible task of making him on a first watch through really humanizes him and really allows a regular viewer to empathize with him. If you're watching this as a conspiracy nut or an alien, a believer in aliens and all that shit, you're really easy to empathize with Mulder. But you have to think about what kind of audience this is made for. This is made for primetime Fox viewers. All of them are just Catholic, middle America schmoes. So to have those people empathize with Mulder on a once watch through, very hard. That's why I think this episode is very interesting, because it allows those those viewers to empathize with Mulder in a way that most of the viewers would not. Only the people like me who have rewatched it 1,000 times, or the believers, or the conspiracy theorists, they'll instantly empathize with Mulder, but not most of the like regular viewing audience would. And this is an episode that really helps that kind of writing and that kind of like viewpoint for the audience. It's a very special episode. I feel that like it shows the strengths of the series in a way that I think most episodes don't. Like, sure, it's not a monster of the week style, like, oh, it's realistic, it's the golem, it's the Jewish golem coming up and killing people and taking revenge. But it's interesting. It really does show the strengths of the series, and I feel that it is one of the most important episodes of X-Files ever. So yeah, that's it. The Fields Where I Died, fantastic. If you guys are interested in watching, I would recommend watching the entire series because I'm a shill, love X-Files. But yeah, if you're gonna watch one episode to really try to understand what the best the series has to offer, it's this. This episode is probably one of the best episodes they ever do. That and Paper Hearts. Paper Hearts and that are and they're both Vince Gillian written episodes. Those two really show the strengths of X-Files as a series. Yeah, that's Caffeinated Cinema. I think next time we will talk about something that isn't X-Files, I promise. I was thinking about doing Rocky or some other of my favorite movies just to try to explain why they're my favorite movies and try to give a more in-depth look into them. But we'll get there when we get there. That's it for now. I'm gonna finish my coffee. It's kind of gotten cold.